It's great to connect today, Daniel. I'm excited to welcome you to the podcast as the first behavioral finance guest. So I look forward to chatting today.
Yeah, no, happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Now, you've thought about and written about finance in all sorts of areas, especially as it relates to kind of the psychology of finance. What lessons have you learned that you would most want to pass on to others?
So it's a little bit tough to narrow down. I have a book coming out in October called The Soul of Wealth, which is 50 essays on money and meaning. So I have thought a lot about this to the point that I have 50 lessons, but we'll keep it to two. We'll keep it to two that I think are under discussed. And the first is that your life will be as rich or as poor as your friends. And when I say rich or poor, I both mean financially and holistically. In the book, I begin each of these 50 essays with an anecdote from history or business or art or film. And the anecdote for this chapter is all about John Hancock, right? And so when they were signing the Declaration of Independence, the men who signed that document, their necks were on the line in a very real sense.
Mhm.
Their lives, their liberties, their fortunes, everything was at stake here when they were signing this document. And so it was important that the first person to sign the document, John Hancock, did it in a way that emboldened the others. And so now we know that famously his signature was huge, but it was sort of him dropping the mic and saying, yes, like I believe in this. And his belief emboldened, the other signers of the declaration to take that bold step. We as a human species, the thing that we do best is copy each other. We're not fast, we're not quick, we don't have sharp claws, we don't have sharp teeth, we don't have fur, we're not strong. Like, compared to the rest of the animal kingdom, we're really weak. And the only thing that we do well, or the thing that we do best, is we have big brains and we work together. And that can be to our benefit or to our detriment because we tend to benchmark our lives and our finances to the people around us. When I was doing some research for the book, I found some really insane statistics. One is around what's called the Werther effect. So when there's a high profile suicide, suicides in the area and even the nation tend to tick up dramatically when there is sort of front page news, a Kurt Cobain type suicide, right? Because we're engaged in this social mimicry. There's fascinating research on obesity. If your best friend becomes obese, that increases your likelihood of becoming obese by 57%. If your sibling becomes obese, 40%. If your spouse becomes obese, 37%. And so, who we surround ourselves with is deeply, deeply impactful. But it works the other way as well. If a friend of a friend of a friend is very happy, that increases the likelihood of that you'll be very happy by 6%. And then, of course, the closer it gets to you, the better it gets. So I think a lot of times we overweight motivational values. We overweight grit and determination and hard work, and we underweight the power of surrounding ourselves with good people who are on the same mission as us, whether that's getting our health right, getting our finances right, or getting our lives turned around, whatever it may be. We know that the people we surround ourselves with, it's deeply, deeply predictive of who we are and where we're going.
So, really interesting because, well, for lots of reasons, but one of those reasons is when I first started this podcast, I was recording monologues long before I was interviewing guests. And one of the lessons that I most wanted to pass on to my kids was this idea that we are professional copycats, that we mimic each other. Now, you've done a better job than I did because you got all sorts of data and statistics that support it and talking about how it affects not only our happiness, but also our finances. And so I just really appreciate this lesson. It's so easy to underappreciate how much our life is impacted by those we surround ourselves with.
It absolutely is. And I think we want to believe we're more free than we are, that again, we have more of that willpower, that personal tenacity to just do what's right in all situations. But I think a lot of times we understand sort of inherently that this is important for kids. Like you and I both have teenagers, and we talked a bit about family before, and like, yeah, I'm always cognizant of who my kids are hanging out with, and I want to make sure they're surrounding themselves with good influences. But I don't know that we always hold ourselves to that same standard. And the people you surround yourself with can really elevate you or bring you down, sort of depending on how thoughtful you've been and how tightly you've curated that friend group.
Yeah, and I think it was Charlie Munger who said it, but I'm sure others have said it as well, is, one of the fastest ways, maybe the fastest way to get rich is to surround yourself with poor people.
Yeah.
Okay, so awesome first lesson. And you said you had two. So what is the other lesson that you most wanted to pass on?
Yeah, the second one again, I don't think gets a lot of play. And it's show me your money and I'll show you your values. So if I have kind of my two pet peeves as a behavioral scientist, like where I think we really get it wrong, the first one is the one I just talked about, it like underestimating the power of influence and environment. And the second one is just how weak our professions of desire are. Like we all want the same stuff, right? Like everybody wants a happy family and a fit body and a wallet full of money and all this stuff. Like but there's this huge disconnect between what we say we want and what we prioritize. And money and our budget is actually a very direct route to what we value. So in that chapter, I sort of started out with this like cheeky little exercise. And I say, hey, look, gentle reader, from 1 to 10, like how much do you like dolphins? And like we're here in California for the summer. We're gonna go see some dolphins soon. And like, everybody likes dolphins, right? So everybody says, 8, 9, 10, yeah, dolphins are great. And then I follow that up with like, okay, like when was the last time you went to see a dolphin? When was the last time you gave money to a dolphin rescue organization? When was the last time you went and played with a dolphin? When was the last time you know, cut up your trash so it wouldn't hurt dolphins? And what we find in this sort of cheeky little example is like everybody says they like dolphins, but like nobody's really doing doing anything that is consistent with this profession of love for dolphins. And that's a silly example. But there's other examples in our lives that are not silly, right? I mean, people say by and large that they're spiritually minded, but only a small minority of people give money to charitable causes and sort of spiritual and philanthropic causes. Um, People say that eating healthy and having a healthy body is one of their priorities in life. But in the book, I talk about how, the average American family spends like 5% of their budget on fast food. And, we talk about the importance of work-life balance and how much we want to spend time with our family. But the average American leaves 9.5 days of PTO on the table each year. Like this is time off that your employer's giving you to go spend time with the people you love, and you're just not doing it. And so I think that, you know, money has this unique power to call us on our BS, right? We each live these lives where we say we value one thing, but the way that we're behaving and the way that we're spending our money is the truest arbiter of how much we value that. Like if you value your health, like do you have a gym membership that you use? Are you buying healthy food? Are you paying a coach? Like if you value that time with your family, like are you spending money to go on vacations? Are you taking that time off? And the final thing I'll say here is when we look at some of the most powerful social movements to ever have taken place, they came about by and large when people aligned their financial priorities with their values, right? Like the end of apartheid was brought about in large part by divesting from South African diamond mines. The civil rights movement, I'm from the deep South, the civil rights movement in my home state of Alabama was really catalyzed by an economic boycott of buses in Montgomery. Gandhi used economic levers to bring about the good that he brought about. So using money, like we don't tend to think of money as all that insightful to how we are making the world a better or worse place, or how we're living or not living our self-professed values. But I think it has an enormous power to call us on our own nonsense and help us like do real good in the world.
So there's been very few times in this podcast where I've just gotten lost in what the guest was saying and just wanted you to go on rather than think about, what I want to know next from you. You have an incredible ability to share jam-packed, insightful information. I love this idea. Show me your money and I'll show you your values. What a great measuring stick that we can use to, like you say, call ourselves out on maybe some of our own delusions. Well, Daniel, the theme for this podcast is simple, practical, and underappreciated. You completely nailed it. I hope everyone goes and reads your book. It's so full of insight and wisdom. Your old book too, right? I mean, you've got a new book coming out, but this isn't your first book as well. So just want to thank you for your time. Love these lessons. I hope I can do a better job of implementing them. Look forward to sharing them with others. So thank you so much, Daniel.
No, my pleasure.